Thanks so much, Ken. It's a real pleasure for me to be here tonight, and I will also tell you that it's probably the easiest meeting of this entire effort for me because I live right across the street. So that's going to be nice. We just got through with an event in Barbersville and drove across on I-64. That's a section that will rattle your teeth, and it's one of the very, very first sections of interstate that will be completely reconstructed with the governor's program. So hope is on the way. The whole section of I-64 out there is getting worked on, but there's a lot of other things in the area here. My job is, well, the first thing I want to do is recognize Chief of Staff Mike Hall over there from the governor's office. And then I know many of you know Mike. I see him every Saturday morning keeping court down at McDonald's here. And then we have Senator Jeffries back there as well. Do we have any other elected officials in the room? Well, what I want to say is my job is to educate as Secretary of Transportation, and the way that I do that quickly is to tell you the three questions we get when we're out traveling like this. And the first of those is, will this cost any new taxes? And the answer to that is no. The legislature already passed all the taxes that are required. The second question is, what's in it for me? We have the map here that shows 600 projects. That's all the projects associated with the total program. There are several parts to the program. The general obligation bond is what's going to be voted on this Saturday. That is what we use to pay for the very expensive projects, but that allows us to do all of the other projects with other parts of the program. And the final question is, what happens if it doesn't pass? Well, we miss a tremendous opportunity for economic recovery and jobs and hope. That's one thing. The second thing is we miss a tremendous opportunity to bond out right now. The rates are very, very attractive. And if we don't do that, you miss and you pay more later. And you pay more later because inflation makes the price go up, and it also means there's additional deterioration. The third thing is, if it doesn't pass, we have to contract and reprioritize the dollars that we have. And so suddenly we can't do those 600 projects. We have to use a lot of those dollars that we would be using on smaller projects. We have to use that to take care of these very expensive projects. And so it's really a tough thing if you have to reprioritize that way. The final thing that I'll say you lose if the bond doesn't pass is you lose the ability to make our roads very much safer and improved. That two-lane roads are half as safe as four-lane roadways. And so at the point that you can finish some of the major roads that we have in the state, then you've made our roads safer. And it's really the roads that our citizens need and deserve. Now, what we have is we have a couple of folks, partners that we work with who will make some brief remarks. And then after that, the person who you've really come to see, the governor, will be here. And he'll take time to tell you about the program, and then he'll also take time to answer all of your questions. The first person I'd like to introduce is Chris Hamilton from the Business and Industry Council. Chris is a real partner and would like to give you the remarks from his industry and his business.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening. Appreciate allowing me to spend a few moments with you. This is the second or maybe third of these that I've been to down here in the general area, and I don't know why we wouldn't be here more than once. I think you get the lion's share of the jobs and the projects. When I look at the 4 or 5 counties woven together right here, it exceeds $1 billion. You know, the $3+ billion that's going to be expended in totality. I am with the Business Industry Council. I'm also with the West Virginia Coal Association, so I wear 2 hats all the time. I'm here in my role with BIC this evening, the Business and Industry Council. That is an umbrella trade organization comprised of most of the major business groups in the state. The Coal Association's a member, the contractors of West Virginia are a member, the Banking Association, the retailers, the car dealers, the Oil and Gas Association, the manufacturers, and the list goes on and on and on. We represent some 60 businesses and trade organizations and represent about 400,000 workers in this state. We've looked at this, as you can imagine, with a diverse group as we have, every which way you can, from a financing standpoint, a job creation standpoint, an economic development, potential negatives or threats, and we cannot find a reason to oppose this matter. In fact, we agree with Ken's characterization. We do believe it's a no-brainer. All the revenue measures to pay for the bonds are already in place. Now that cuts against our intuition when we hear of a bond or a levy. You know, there's always some hidden fee associated with it. There are absolutely none with this one. We're already paying the tariff. And in return, We get our roads fixed. We get new portions of roads and critical intersections established. We also get to, we will have the benefit of some 48,000 new jobs, construction, heavy equipment jobs. I don't have to tell anybody the downturn that the coal mining industry has experienced here in the last 5 or 6 years, well, probably close to a decade. But we have today about 12,000 coal miners, direct mining jobs, about 12,000 in the state. Passage of this road bond amendment will establish upwards of 45,000 new jobs. And that's not a number that's been made up. It's actually 48,000. It's based on a study that Duke University has done. So on one hand, we pay nothing more for it than what's been paid. And we get all these jobs on the front end of this massive amount of work that's going to go on statewide. We don't know of anything else capable of infusing 48,000 new jobs. And we're hopeful they're all West Virginians that get those jobs. We have all the reason in the world to believe that the majority of those jobs will go to West Virginians. Think of the workplace participation rate that we have. It's the worst in the country. Only 1 out of every 2 individuals capable of working are holding a job in our state today. It's the worst workforce participation rate. It's right about 50%. We lead the nation. And we have an opportunity by simply voting yes to bring in and to add 48,000 jobs around the state. And we have the potential to bring people home. We have the potential to get people that's been furloughed or had to move out of state or some other dislocation back here, get them on the roads program. So big infusion to economic development, creation of tens of thousands of new jobs, and then we will have this much needed first-class infrastructure for accessibility, quality of life, school children's safety as the end result. Such a pleasure to be here. You all get the added bonus. Not only do you get the lion's share of the work, but you have all these top-rated officials right here in Putnam County. Tom next door and Mike Hall and Senator Jeffries. We even have Mitch Carmichael. I mean, you got the ability to hold these guys accountable that's taking full ownership of this. So thanks for letting me spend a few moments with you tonight, and please get out and support the bond amendment. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. In America, we get work done, we get our heavy lifting done on the public side by working with our private industry partners. That's both our consulting industry and our contracting industry. Michael Haid is here representing the consulting industry. Mike Clauser was with us earlier today representing the Contracting Association. And so what I'd like to do is ask Michael Haid to come up and say a few remarks now, representing our private sector partners.
Hi everybody, thank you Tom. I'm Michael Hay, I represent West Virginia Engineers. I'd like to make a couple points about a few things quickly. You don't want to wait to buy major things, expecting a price cut. How many things have we bought in our lives where the price has gone down by waiting? You might get a closeout deal on a car if it's last year's model or something, but when you buy property and you buy things, you don't get a better deal by waiting most of the time. And here's a great example in the in the private sector is what happened with Building 3. Does everyone know what happened here with Building 3? We just redid that building, basically in the Capitol complex, and we didn't like the bids we got. So what we decided was we're just going to wait about 5 years and see what happens. Well, what do you think happened? I think it cost an extra $15 to $20 million over the highest bid that we thought was too high. So what do you think is going to happen with roads? Do you think the price is going to go down if we wait? Think there's going to be a better opportunity, better interest rates? I doubt it, and I don't think that's a risk we can take. I would like to add, there's been a lot of discussion about jobs, and everybody wants a guarantee. Oh, this is going to be we have to hire every West Virginian for these jobs. Well, we don't do that in any sector anywhere else in West Virginia, and we can't possibly do it here and make that guarantee. However, I would like to say, as far as all these jobs here, over here on the 600 jobs, almost every one of those will be basically designed by a West Virginia engineering firm or a West Virginia engineer. And those are good jobs, and those are six-figure jobs in most instances. So I feel really good about that. And my engineering firms are basically chomping at the bit. They're going to hire hundreds of engineers to fill these jobs so they can get these projects done and not let down our state partners. I have worked a lot with highways over the past 5 years, and let me tell you, they're a great group of hard-working folks. And it's been a pleasure to get Tom to take this job. My biggest concern about when Tom took the job is how long is Tom going to stay, because he is an amazing asset. We're very lucky to have him in West Virginia. But the other thing is, you want to know about your roads. People are always afraid to vote for a bond because they think, oh, what's in it for me? I don't normally drive down on I-64. I live in Charleston, kind of stay pretty close to home. That road's really horrible shape. My wife works in Hurricane down here in Mission, West Virginia, and she always complains about the bumpy road. Let me tell you, it's horrible. And I'm not used to traffic, and it was kind of stressful, and I'm thinking, wow, we could really use that bridge, couldn't we, at Nitro St. Albans? I mean, how many of you guys drive to Charleston frequently? It's, yeah, go past that bond. That bridge may not be built for another 10 years. I mean, it's got to happen. And we have to get out there and vote for this bond. I don't know if you've looked at the numbers of the early voting. They're very low. People are always saying, oh, that's good for you or it's bad for you. I don't know. I think you can spin it however you want. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't pass this, I think we're kind of out of options and shoot ourselves in the foot. And it's not perfect, and government's not perfect. There are no guarantees. But if we don't do something now, we're not going to be better off. 3 out of the last 4 road bonds failed. So you think we're better off because we voted those down? I mean, what do we have to show for that? Losing population, last in everything. It's time to pass this bond. So I'm counting on all you guys to get out there and vote and ask the governor whatever's on your mind. He's a very honest guy. He'll do the best he can to answer your questions, and he'll be coming up momentarily. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks, Michael. Well, I see my boss has entered here, and I will tell you he's got a historic program that he's had the vision for, that he stood up here. I can tell you he's a very impatient man. He wants to get on with this, and he wants to talk to you about this program. It's big, $2.6 billion in additional growth beyond that. It's bold, 48,000 immediate jobs associated with those jobs, with those projects, and it provides for immediate economic recovery. So let's go ahead and welcome the 36th Governor of the state of West Virginia, Governor Jim Justice.
Did you do good talking? I think so. Okay. Thank y'all so much for inviting me, especially Kenny, and a lot of nice people here. Okay. I've talked myself out.
You want a bottle of water?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I've got to say this before going further. There's a gentleman sitting in the back of the room, Perry Estep. And there's a wonderful gentleman sitting right here, and I'll get right back to Dr. Alexander in just one second. But let me say this about Perry Estep. I've coached in excess of 1,200 basketball games. I've only been thrown out of the building one time, and it was this beautiful man that asked me to leave the building. And so, no, Perry's a great friend, and he's a great official, and he's a great coach, and just a great man. So I thank you for being my great friend. And I'd like to mention Dr. Alexander because, he is really special to me in many, many ways. Dean of the business school, and I know he's been a mayor, been everything under the sun, and I tell this story so many, many times, but it's just so worthy to tell it again. You know, I rolled into his class, and here's the dean of the business school. He's teaching a freshman principles of management class. And I rolled in there. I'd transferred from Tennessee, but I still had to have this class. And I rolled in there, and he walked right up to the podium. He got his little glasses on. He's just peering over his glasses. He looks like Dr. Bombay on this Bewitched or whatever. And so he flips his great book open, and he says, well, let's see how this class did last semester. He said, well, this class had 19 A's, 22 B's, 2 C's. I thought, okay. And then he said, well, same class, let's look at another one here. And he looked, and he said, well, this one did even better. We had 26 A's and 12 B's and no C's. And I thought, this is my class today. That's for sure. And then he peered out over those glasses and said, which I think is the most profound statement a teacher could ever make. He said, you see, if you don't make an A or a B in my class, then I feel like I've not done my job. Now you better buckle up, because I'm getting ready to work your ass off. And that's what he did, you know. But what a man that had a lot of impact in my life, and I thank him. I always try to, everything. But I see one senator back here, Brother Glenn. I don't know if we got any other delegates or senators here, but if we do, y'all stand up and holler, because I can't, I don't know where you are. But if y'all give Glenn a great big round of applause, Glenn Jeffries. Now, Brother Mike Hall was a senator, and I kind of robbed him away and everything. He's doing a great job as our chief of staff. And you've got a lot of people that's already spoken to you and told you a lot about this roads thing, and I'm sure they've given you good advice and good knowledge. And I'll be really quick, I think, and then I'll let you ask anything that you choose to ask. First of all, I can't possibly see anybody that's in their right mind that is going to vote no in regard to the bond referendum. I can't see any downside at all to a yes vote, to a yes vote. No downside. Now, I'm not going to be disrespectful to someone that would say, well, I just don't like you, Justice, or I don't like roads, or I don't like what we're doing, or whatever. I understand, and I'm okay with that, you know, but the net of the whole thing is, it's more toward what is the downside if it doesn't pass. Not what is the downside to if it does pass. If it passes, we know we've got all kinds of more jobs. We know we've got a chance to have, well, not a chance, we'll have all kinds more revenue. We'll get our roads fixed, and you know, we'll be on our way. On the other hand, you know, if it doesn't pass, we know the roads are not going to get fixed. And we know we're going to throw away all these jobs. And then the biggest question that I have to everybody is, somebody tell me, where is the revenue going to come from? What are we going to do? You know, when I walked into this party, now y'all can say anything you want to say about Brother Jim here, but when Jim walked into the party, we had a $500 million hole in the bucket. We drained rainy day just about as low as you can possibly drain it from the standpoint of our bonds were being derated. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? I mean, we're dead last in everything coming or going. We know within West Virginia, we don't like to hear that, but we know within West Virginia that we're a beautiful state with great people and good schools and good teachers, and we love our mountains and we love our state. We know that. But we know, too, that we're dead last and losing population, and we don't know where to turn, you know. Now, the brass tacks facts of the whole thing is just this. If you've got a constitution that says you've got to balance the budget, and you've got a $500 million hole, and you don't do anything, you're going to have to turn to Marshall and WVU. That's where it's going to come right off the get-go. You're going to have to turn to Medicaid or DHHR, the sick, the elderly, the autistic, whatever. You're going to have to turn to K through 12. You're going to have to cut. Well, then when you do that, more people are going to leave. And when more people leave, the hole's going to get bigger right behind you. And then where are you going to go? Then you got to do it again. And before you know it, you're really searching for somebody to be the last person here to turn the lights out. Because this beautiful state, everything we cherish in every way, shape, form, or fashion, that's the state of the being. At least that's how I see it. Now, we can hope, and you know, this area has exploded. You know, when I was at Marshall, I used to hunt everywhere around here. You know, and it's exploded in growth, and it's been really good, really, really good. But this area is not going to, first of all, we need for it to continue to grow. And second of all, we need the roads for it to continue to grow. But lastly, we need to know that this one area, or maybe the area right around WVU today, or wherever it may be, you know, whether it be in Harrison County or wherever, is not going to save us. It's just not. And so the net of the whole thing is we got to do something. Now, we've put together a program here, and I truly mean this. I mean this with all my soul. With all my soul. I believe every good idea that comes to me comes from the good Lord, and I'll take credit for the bad ones, and I think He's in control of everything I do. And I say it very proudly. But here's the deal. I came up with this idea, or he came up with it and put it in me, but anyway, to where all of a sudden, if we could come up with the funding, and that's what those buckets are, and we could get that passed, then I know how to put this into a financial instrument and put it into a bond and turn it into an enormous amount of money. And when you turn it into an enormous amount of money, then you can let all these road jobs tomorrow. And they turn into a massive amount of jobs, and then all of a sudden you're jump started and here you go. Well, that's what we've done. There's no new taxes. No matter what anybody in the world is telling you, get that out of your mind. That's gone. There is no possibility of new taxes, because just this. Here's a perfect example of what I'm trying to tell you is, if you go to sell a bond, you best better have the funding, or you're going to get a rating on the bond that's going to be so bad nobody will buy it. So if I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say, we may raise taxes, you think I'm going to be able to sell the bonds on that? There's no way. There's no way. That the people have scared you with, you can forget. There's no chance that the taxes are going to go up. There's no chance that not every dime of this is going to be constitutionally has to go to the roads. Now, if you want a bad scenario, think about this. It doesn't pass. You're still continuing to pay that. What is government going to do with that? Eventually, they'll figure a way to pee away your money, and your roads will never get fixed. I can tell you positively, without any doubt, if you that had enough gumption to give up what really may be good for a little while tonight to come out here, if you don't really get busy, it could fail. Now, I think it's going to pass overwhelmingly. I really do, if we get the vote out. The problem is the vote right now, we've had 24,600 people early vote by 4:25 today. What does that project to? It projects to about a 10 to 12% turnout. 10 to 12% turnout is so low that the naysayers could rule the day. Now, and you could lose. And then what's going to happen? You know, tell me what's going to happen. Really and truly, you're not going to get your roads done. There's not going to be funds available, revenue available to run the full government. And so there's got to be bigger cuts coming right at you. We'll slow even more. You know, it will cost more money to fix the roads whenever we do fix the roads, all of you will probably die, me included, before you ever see the roads fixed. We're better than this. We're way better than this. Now, I can't be any more honest with you. You know, I can't be any more straightforward with you than that. And now just ask me anything you choose to ask, and I'll do the very best I can possibly do to answer it. But I love you, and I want goodness for you. And my last that I'll say is just this. Is there anybody here that really believes that Jim Justice needs to be governor for Jim Justice? Are you kidding? Are you out of your mind? I mean, Jiminy, don't you think I got enough to do? I mean, I got plenty to do. And really and truly, but I chose to do this, and I want to be the governor that gets something done. I don't need to ride around in a parade and have you pat me on the back and say, hey, Governor, how you doing? I don't need any part of that. You know, for crying out loud, I can coach a basketball game and follow my little bird dog through the woods and try to find a grouse. Believe it or not, over the weekend, I killed an 11-point buck with my big bow. And so I got plenty to do, you know, now. But I chose to do this, and I chose to do this for you, and for me, but for you. The me part of it is just this. At the end of the day, none of us are going to live forever. And I'd like for them to at least put on my tombstone that we got something done. That's all I'm interested in doing. You know, there may be some of you that are Democrats, and there may be some of you here that are Republicans. I would tell you this. If you are so preoccupied with your party that you either love or dislike me, then I think you're doing the wrong thing. What we should do, everybody in this room, everybody in this state, we should first and foremost be West Virginians. And we should not be Democrats or Republicans first and foremost. We should be West Virginians, because we're in a heck of a mess. And we know how good we are, and we know where we could go. That's what I think. Now, ask me anything you choose to ask. Yes, sir.
Larry Jones. In my honest opinion, I think you're really promoting it wrong.
Okay.
Bonds, people don't like. It's
Right.
like when you go buy a home, you get a mortgage.
Right,
It gives us time to pay it over time.
Right.
That's what you're doing with that up there.
right,
We're getting all of our money at once.
right.
Why don't you explain it like that? People
Okay,
don't
let me
like
explain it
bonds.
this way. Let me explain it, and I'll use your scenario. The senator sent me this today, and I think it's pretty dead on. The roof's leaking at your house. Now, you can go out and borrow the money and fix the roof. Everything works. Or you can decide, no, I'm not going to do that. And what's going to happen? Roof's going to leak more. It's going to damage more. Leak's going to get bigger. To fix it then, it's going to cost more money. That's basically it. Tom Smith would probably tell you that today interest rates are so low, you can borrow the money today, and that funding vehicle that you're going to pay anyway. I mean, you're going to pay it anyway. That's all there's to it. That's already in place. And you can borrow the money today and let that funding pay it off and never even know it happened and create all these jobs and do all the stuff. Or you can not do it, and the leak gets bigger. Was that better? Okay. At least I got a little.
You're getting your money up front,
Yeah.
and we pay for it later. That's where we get the money.
That's
Like
right.
you do with your mortgage,
That's exactly right.
and we get something accomplished.
You get everything accomplished. I mean, crying out loud, you know. Here's the other, I mean, everybody knows, I mean, I from day one, I've not changed in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I believe wholeheartedly that education ought to be the centerpiece to everything we do. Everything. It ought to be the economic driver for our state. It ought to be everything. Well, why can't we make it that? Well, in all honesty, in a lot of situations, no matter what the why, always comes back to we don't have any money. We don't have any money. You know, imagine this, just the payroll taxes. Just the payroll taxes generated from this right here is going to be $200 million a year. The payroll taxes. For crying out loud, and you can put that into anything. Vets, Medicaid, education, anything. Then think what's going to happen to the multiplier effect of the sales tax or the income tax or on and on and on and on and on, the gas tax, everything. It turns into, it's almost impossible to really tell what the real economic benefit of this is. It could be, and I've said this to a bunch of people, and I'm not going to do this, but really and truly, you could almost do this and hit the autopilot and say, we're on our way. Let this drive the whole state. Because everything's going to happen. Tourism's going to happen. Manufacturing's going to happen. You know, I really believe wholeheartedly with all of them, whether you love him or hate him, you know, Donald Trump is going to do really, really good stuff, or some really good stuff for West Virginia. Now, it doesn't matter if you hate him or love him because he's the president. For crying out loud. He's the person that can or can't help us today in a lot of ways. Now, I would tell Donald if he was sitting here, there's times when Donald can get absolutely out there so far, it's unbelievable. But I know him well enough to know that the man genuinely cares about us. Somebody else has something, please. Well, you are. They care.
Have you always, did you inherit your obsession to help other people? And what people don't realize, the day I ejected you, you called me the next day and was obsessed with me officiating 2 games at Green Mary's for the rest of your career because a friendship was born out of that. But have you always been obsessed with helping others?
I was scared of it. Well, I'd burn his house down if I was. No, I'll tell you. Listen, and this is just, you know, and I don't know if we've done this in my absence, but, you know, we had a terrible, terrible awakening in Las Vegas this morning, you know, and the least we could do is just take a minute of silence for those people. So let's please do that right now. Okay, thank you. Okay. And I've been away from the news. How many do they think dead now?
59.
And one from West Virginia.
It's unbelievable. But Perry asked, you know, all my life about, you know, I've done a lot of stuff. And I've helped a lot of times when there wasn't any money to help. You know, you got to remember, my grandparents didn't have indoor plumbing, and there was times when really you couldn't possibly help. But I really believe if you do, some way, somehow, it'll really work out. And the good book tells us that over and over and over. But listen to me on this. Yeah, a lot of people would say, Justice, at your age, why didn't you just retire? And I would say, look, and this is just how I feel. And I don't begrudge anybody for, you know, some people retire when they're 35 years old. I'm okay with that. I'm great with that. You know, but how I feel is this way, and it's just fact. I mean, I feel the good Lord has blessed me beyond belief. I mean, beyond belief. You know, and sure, there's lots of days that are really, really tough. I mean, really tough. But I believe if I just go to the house and just kind of do what I want to do, which would be grouse hunt or coach basketball or just hang out or do whatever I wanted to do, I believe that the good Lord would look back at me and say, you know, I really, really, really blessed you. And you could have helped a lot of people and you could have kept on doing a lot of good stuff, and I'm not happy with you. Well, that's the end of the story with me. So as long as he gives me breath, I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. And keep on trying to help as many people as we possibly can help. You know, I'll tell you one other thing real quick is, you know, we had the terrible floods, and we just opened the Greenbrier and took anybody and everybody in. A lot of people came up and patted me on the back and said, boy, Jim, that's an unbelievable thing to do. Well, bull snot, you know, it's what I should have done. It's just what I should have done. But can you imagine? I mean, we had people walk in there that didn't even have shoes. And then our great people at the Greenbrier started teaching the kids swimming lessons in the swimming pool. We didn't have hot water, but we could do that, you know. And then they got some super G-rated movies and was taking them to the movie theater. It was just, I mean, I don't know how it gets any better than that. I really don't. So I mean it when I tell you I love you. I really do. Somebody else has something, please.
Jim, just one of the things that when he talks about all the jobs and the benefit to the state, you know, with all these projects, if we can complete all these projects, it's just a trickle-down effect. You know, when we start to plan our vacations and things like that, we always look, if we're trying to decide on a destination, we look at how long it's going to take us to get there, right? We look at what the roads are like, all those kinds of things. And if we can improve our roads to some of these state parks that we have, you know, destinations like that, the crossover time, you know, coming through the state, open up some other areas where these companies are looking at, you know, what type of infrastructure. That's the type of you know, jobs and all of the things that we can do that can help create a better state and attract people through here. I was telling somebody before the meeting, when I travel the Turnpike, there's 1 out of every 5 cars are from West Virginia. The rest of them are from out of state. And so if you say, well, okay, half of those cars are, you know, people going on vacation. When you go on vacation, what do? You take a little bit extra money with you, don't you? So if we have some things where they can take a little side trip over here maybe to see something and you know, spend some of that money here in West Virginia, that'll help. And it's these types of things that we need. And like Mike was talking, Mike Hague it's Mike, right? Was talking about before, it's not going to get cheaper. It ain't. You quoted a figure, Tom, something about, I thought it was like 6 times there was some sort of statistic on road construction.
Since 2003, prices have increased 65% when it comes to roadway construction. So.
Yeah. So I mean, that's why I said it was a no-brainer. But again, I said that's my opinion. But in Putnam County, are you gonna? Some of these people may not know about the exit, what they're going to do over there. They may not have seen in the paper or whatever.
Talking about on Route 35.
Yes. Can you tell them about that?
Well, we have looked and have seen that the area is so ripe for development, and with Toyota expanding, with the truck traffic coming up the hill there, we decided, well, we just need to go ahead and make that a full interchange and make sure that it functions well instead of having an at-grade intersection. And so that'll be something we do with Route 35 as we finish it.
Exactly. And I had an opportunity to talk to a gentleman that was at that meeting that we were at from Toyota, and he said that that decision alone to do that would play a major role in their decisions on how much they were going to expand over there at the Toyota plant.
If the bond passes, how soon will all this start happening?
Really, really, really fast. and Tom can tell that better than I, but it's already starting. And I've got to say 2 things. There's a lady, and I guess her husband, you know, that just left with a little boy, and you know, and I see you've got, is that a little girl? And you know, my daughter Jill, that played basketball for Marshall, she's a doctor now and everything. She's pregnant, 7 months pregnant with our first grandbaby, so I'm really envious.
That's my grandson and my granddaughter.
Oh, that's great. That's so good. That's great. Okay.
One thing you ought to know is that the general obligation bond allows us to get to the really expensive projects, and that work would start sometime next year. But the governor has also structured these other packages. We have the federal aid funding that we use for bonding, and we have the turnpike funds that we use for bonding. Those projects, particularly the federal aid projects, are starting even this fall. Chief Hall came over and we were talking with Moody's and Standards & Poor's today for a bond sale at the end of the month, $260 million, the way that we'll pay our debt services with our existing federal funds. But we have an increased level of bonding allowed for the federal funds now, so that'll be the single biggest bond sale in the history of West Virginia for transportation purposes. That'll happen at the end of the month, and we have about 31 projects that are going out the door right now that will be funded by that.
Including the Nitro Bridge?
That's one of the expensive projects on the general obligation bond. And that's one that will be very hard to get to in the short term if we don't have the bond. It'll be years.
But if you have the bond,
yes.
you'll be able to get to it, will you not?
Right, next year.
Yeah.
We'll be getting
Think
the
about that.
contracts out.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we talking about, we're talking about all these big projects, but a lot of us are interested in the back
Sure.
roads.
Sure.
Is there any chance that they would be worked on also?
I'll let Tom talk, but I want to say something about that right off the get. In this total amount of money, okay, there's a tranche of the money, well, there's a section of the money, I'll use that word, that goes towards the big projects. But the greatest part about the whole thing is just this, and I think I'm right about this, you can correct me, Tom. But there's about $160 million a year it costs to keep up well, it's what we're spending today, to keep up the roads, and we're not getting it done, okay? But in this, there's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that we can put toward our local roads and repairing those roads right now. You know, so even though that you should not portray this as all new roads, because the overwhelming majority of these 600 projects, I think, you know, if Harry told me the right number, of the 600 projects here, 44 of them were new.
Right, the big ones.
44 of them are new, and 556 of them are existing roads.
Yeah, we have a pot of money this big, and we have to cover everything we're doing right now with that pot of money, including the new starts, those expensive projects, all the maintenance we have to do. If we get the big bond package over here, we're able to quickly get to all of those expensive projects, and it allows us to do more with this over here. So the governor's right, we can get the secondary roads that we don't get to here. The other thing that we did with the governor's program was we said for a whole year we won't need that money from the fee increases for debt service. So why don't we go ahead and have a whole year where we take care of those secondary off federal aid system routes. By the time it's done, it'll be about $150 million. Those are the roads I hear about the most when I travel around the state. People are saying, why can't you get to them? The reason is we just don't have the money. We're just that dry. This allows us to have a whole year, a little over a year, to get to about $150 million. Plus we can use the normal program now to get to some of those too. So it's remarkable how far you can make this reach if you have the big pot of money over here to take care of the expensive project.
Well, you know, if I heard the governor correctly, he said that we have $160 million pot of money. It's what we've been spending. And he also said that the payroll taxes alone that would be generated by this would be $200 million. Well, that would be more money than what we're spending on working on those local roads now. Is that right?
That's
Yeah.
right. And
So, I mean,
that's just a multiplier number. I mean, you take 48,000 new jobs, multiply it by however much the people earn, put 50,000 in it, just do the math. It comes up to about $200 million. Real money.
That's right.
Gigantic money. But you're right. If you can't make it to the convenience store on your road, you don't give a hoot about the Nitro Bridge. I mean, I got that. And that's what, if he doesn't get your road fixed, get him. No, I get that, I get it, I get it. We gotta get our existing roads fixed.
Yeah, I live on that kind of road, it's really rough,
Yeah.
and we're in and out of home lot.
Governor Justice.
Yes, sir.
My name's Eric Tarr. Is there an auditing process that, let's say the bond does pass, that we're able to see what's happening as citizens as far as how fast projects are getting done, where that money's going to, those type of things? Is there a process in place for one of these?
I honestly don't know, but I answered this question, kind of not that same question at all. I am for complete transparency. You know, I am absolutely for that. I don't think we need to be hiding anything. And the more we're showing, the better off the more I'm for it. So you know, I think that we need that in place. Yes, sir, Doctor.
You've already called to my attention what I've done and so forth, but everybody has a story to tell. Let me tell you a very short one. My father died when I was 4 years old. I managed to finish high school. I joined the service in time to serve in Korea for 29 and a half months. I came back home to West Virginia and I enrolled in Marshall. My service pay was $75 a month. When I enrolled in Marshall, the amount that the GI Bill paid was $110 a month. I got married my junior year, and I'm still married, over 60 years. And my pay was raised $15 to $125. I graduated, and I've worked many years at the state at many different things. But I can tell you that the money that the government spent on me, I have paid back 1,000 times in taxes. Now, I'm for this. I'm 89 years old as of Friday. And I voted in a lot of elections. I couldn't vote when I was 18 because I was in Korea and they didn't allow 18-year-olds to vote. My first election was a vote in 1952. I haven't missed an election since. I'm a historical voter. I've had the pleasure of voting for myself because I've been in elected office for 15 and a half years, various functions, as well as a professor at Martin. I don't know of anything since '52 to this year that's more important to the people of West Virginia than this road bond issue. I voted on a lot of things, but this is critical. We're at a critical place in this state. We're lucky to have a good governor. We've got people who will support it. I've already voted, Governor, and my wife has voted. We know there are 2 votes for it. I'm sure there are going to be more. I hope people get out and vote. I used to tell my students that if you don't take part in the political process, somebody else will be eating your lunch. And so, it's up to you to get out and get your neighbors, your relatives, whoever you can, to vote for this bond issue. I don't mean to lecture, but I tell you, I say again, it's the most important vote that I will cast since I've been living in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for a life well lived, and when you get to be 101, you got to do it again. But I don't know. I can't say anything else. I mean, you know, it's everything. You got it? Yes, sir.
Governor, I'm for the bond and agree with all 100%. But my wife gave me one instruction tonight.
Okay.
I probably direct this towards Tom. And she wants to know if the new interchange on Interstate 32 is in the improvements on 64.
The,
at Grand Closing.
that particular interchange is not in the list of the expensive projects here. What we did is we took up the stuff that was in the 6-year plan. What this does, though, is it moves the schedule of all of those projects forward, accelerates everything that was in the 6-year plan, so that project can flow in behind and be accelerated as far as the schedule for getting to it. And that will help congestion a lot along the I-64 corridor.
I could say that project would have been underway because I was chairman of the Cuyahoga Interstate Planning. And we had it on the docket. It was pulled off. I asked certain political figures to put it back on. They said we didn't need it. It could have been built because I now have lived in Putnam County for 20 years. And if you try to get off that interchange down there at Hurricane, at a certain time of the day, you don't get off. It should have been done. People thought it was going to be done because of the airport vote. But the airport didn't go through, and so it was kind of pushed to the back burner.
Let me follow up on Dr. Alexander on something that is so important. You've got people that are out there that don't have a clue that there's even an election coming up. Yeah, I mean, I pulled into McDonald's in White Sulphur Springs 4 days ago, and a guy got out of the car screaming at the top of his lungs. He said, "Way to go, Jim. We're for you. We're with you. You're doing great. Keep up doing the great work." And I turned to him and I said, "Now you got a vote on this bond thing on Saturday," and he went just blank. Like, what are you talking about? And so then I went through explaining what it all was. I am telling you, there is no more important vote. There could not possibly be a vote that we've ever had that's more important than this. Please take time. Please, if you've thought enough to be out here tonight, please just take the time to pick up the phone and call people that you may think don't know, or maybe they're not going to vote. Maybe they don't have any, they don't have a chance in the world of coming out to vote. Maybe they just don't understand. But please pick up the phone and call them and ask them to come. Just go vote. Just go vote. For crying out loud, we absolutely don't need to just whiff this. I'll end by saying that, this would be like, I could tell you so many different things, but this would be like standing at home plate with a tennis racket, and I'm throwing a watermelon, and all you got to do is hit the watermelon, and you whip it. We can't possibly miss this opportunity. There's no way. Because if you do, I just don't have any idea where you'll turn. I really don't. Now, probably all of y'all will be okay. Yes, sir.
Tom Sawyer. If we have done such a poor job of letting the public know that there's an election vote Saturday, surely we ought to get something on television or something, kind of a program to get the news out to the people.
Well, in all honesty, we're doing that. Now, first of all, I can't spend government money to promote an election. Now, there was something that was gray and I opted out of it. I could have spent government money to educate people and say, there is no new taxes, whatever like that. But it got to where it was so gray from the standpoint of me spending the government's money, and I would have spent my money. That would have even been worse, so I couldn't do that. But there is an independent expenditure, a group, and they've spent, and they've got television commercials running like crazy, and they've got Coach D'Antoni getting ready to be in a television commercial. Coach Huggins is in a television commercial, and they've got stuff running like crazy, and flyers going out all over the place, and they're trying. But, and they're going to end up spending probably $400,000 or $500,000 doing it, so they're trying.
But Tom, when we started putting this program together for tonight, what I asked the people that I knew were to call people, okay? And I reached out to Ashley with the Chamber and with the Rotary Club, Cindy Adkins and the Butch Chips at the VFW. I mean, we tried to activate Bill Hensley with the Lions Club, activate all the civic organizations. So tonight, when you leave here, if you can't leave here tonight prepared to vote yes for this, you need to hang around and ask some more questions. That's how I feel, okay? But when you leave here tonight, if you'll make a commitment to call 5 of your friends, if we've got 80 people in here, now that's 400. If those 400 will call 5 people, then that's 2,000. And that's the way the best advertising in the world is word of mouth. And the worst advertising in the world can also be word of mouth. But we know now, there's no new taxes. There's no new taxes. We're getting roads, we're getting infrastructure, we're getting jobs, we're getting payroll taxes. I mean, that's what I said from the very beginning. It's a no-brainer. We cannot. We just can't. We can't. If you got a better solution, stand up and tell it to us. I want to hear it. Because I don't want my son and my daughter and them leaving here. I've been here all my life. I've had many chances to leave, but I've stayed here and stuck it out. So, I know we say that all the time. We talk about our kids, but what's more important than our kids and our family? Really. I mean, the older I get, the more I realize that. It ain't about how many toys you have, how many cars you have, all that. It's about friends and family.
Before I take her question, let me say this one thing. A lot of people say, well, you got all these jobs, are West Virginians going to be able to get all those jobs? And I hope and pray that every job is filled with a West Virginian, but it's impossible today. We're going to have to amp up our community college, our tech colleges, our universities and everything to try to do all we can do, but that still won't be enough. But let me tell you a resource that we have that is just there waiting on us. How many of you know of people that had to leave the state to go get a job? How many families are spread out in Atlanta and Charlotte and Denver and everywhere? And grandma wants to have a picnic this Sunday and she wants her grandkids to be there. And they can't be there because they're spread out all over the country because they had to leave to go get a job. We can bring those people home. They want to come home. They want to come back to West Virginia and they can pass a drug test and they know a craft and everything. They can come home. For crying out loud, there's so much benefit here. It's just unbelievable. Now, answer your question. I'm sorry, ma'am.
It's all right. How much opposition do you find, and what is the objections?
Well, first of all, you find where people have been scared about the taxes going up. And that's just somebody that's trying to get their name in the paper that's spewing out a bunch of venom. That's not true at all. And then you have people that are concerned about West Virginians getting the jobs, and that's legitimate, but at the same time, wouldn't it be great to awaken to a place where we had more jobs than we have people to fill them? I mean, it'd just be unbelievable. That'd be great. And then really and truly, then you get people that are mad at me because I switched parties or something like that, which is crazy. I mean, it's like you know what I tell them about this, and then they really get mad at me for this and everything. But I say, Jeffro Bodine on the Beverly Hillbillies was standing by the cement pond one day with an anvil in his hands, with a chain tied to his leg. And Jed walked up and said, Jeffro, what are you doing? And he said, my girl done dumped me, and I'm going to throw the anvil in the cement pond and drown myself. And Jed said, well, Jeffro, what good's that going to do you? And he said, pardon, I made a mistake, didn't I, Uncle Chip? Well, so the bottom line is, whether you love or hate me, shouldn't have a thing in the world to do with it. You best better do what's right for West Virginia and the roads and you and everybody else. Blowing your own legs off to try to make a point is nuts. It's nuts. The opposition is not very great. Everywhere I go, here's what I get. I say, is there anybody here that is against this? And most everybody says, most everybody, there's nobody. There's nobody. You know, everybody's going to vote for it. The problem is just this. If you have this negative group that gets enough voters out there and we don't turn out to vote, we can lose. That's it. If there's enough venom to get enough people out there to vote no, and you don't show up, we lose. That's all there is to it.
Governor, I think we lose our future.
Oh.
Big time.
Okay, Scott. You know, it's just unbelievable what would happen.
Governor, the mayor from City of Hurricane, Mayor Edwards, he just came in.
Hey, Mayor.
Hey, we had a council meeting tonight, I apologize for being
Okay,
late.
that's good.
You'll be happy to know we did pass a resolution in support of the Roads to Prosperity United City Council.
Good, man.
Unanimous vote, and everybody in the crowd was also for it. I mean, I talked to some people, and like you said, I'm not running into anybody that's against it. You know, one or two people that just don't know. But once you educate a little bit, the tax thing is what's getting people.
Yeah.
They don't believe there's not money in taxes. And once you tell them, then it's okay. Then they say, oh, okay, well.
Well, I mean, I could even get more graphic and tell you this. Say, what's the chances of the legislature raising taxes? I mean, really, what's the chances of our legislature raising taxes? I mean, it's zero. It's super zero. It's not kind of zero. It's zero on steroids. You know, so and what's the chances of Glenn buying a bond that he doesn't know how it's going to pay off? Well, it's zero. That argument is just honestly silly. Silly. We had 34-0 senators. If you don't believe me, I'd say, well, believe Glenn. 34-0 voted for this. In the House, 90 out of 100 voted for it, and 2 of them were absent. You know, you've got a small group that's running around trying to get their name in the paper or trying to pick a fight about something that's scaring people. It's not any good. It's not right. Yes, ma'am.
Saturday voting always has a lower voter turnout.
Yeah.
Just want to remind everybody the polls are open for early voting tomorrow and Wednesday.
That's right. You got 2 more days to early vote. Saturday's a bad day, but we had to pick Saturday because you couldn't find the places for the people to vote. The schools are open during the week, and they're not going to close the schools for this vote. And then we picked the date that we picked the best football date we could pick, and I don't know if that's going to work either.
Should have been this past Saturday.
Well, probably.
Should have had a tailgate in the parking lot with all the voting things. Everybody can watch the game there.
Well,
Get out early.
please vote. Remember this now, 24,609 is the vote today. Now, hold on, I'm going to show you this here. Look at this. I think this is right. You got, I think 1.2 million voters. Okay? Is that right, guys?
That's right, yes.
Okay. Now, you've got 24,609 that have voted as of 4:25 today. Okay? We got 2 more days. This number is probably going to be 30,000. Historically, 20% to 25% of the people vote early. All right? Now, Even if it's 20%, that means you can multiply this number by 5, and you're going to come up with a total vote. I think that's right. No, you can multiply it by 4. That's right. Multiply it by 5. You come up to 150,000. All right. That is to this 12%. That's how many voters we'll have at the best. At the best scenario. The very best scenario, 12% of the people are going to vote. That's bad. That's bad.
Now, it's a simple majority.
Right.
Right. No 60%.
That's right. It's a simple majority. But the lower, the less your voice is going to be heard. I think we're going to win big. I really do. I think it's going to be, and the bigger we win, the more Washington hears us. Promise you I'm right. I'm going up the road. God bless you. I'm done. Thank you, man.